I want to thank everybody for every prayer, for all the boots on the ground, all the efforts, all the tips that are coming in. But there's someone, or more than someone out there, that knows more.
Hey guys, it's David Hamilton with WBRZ. We are still here at Baton Rouge Police Department headquarters, where they just finished a press conference along with the mayor's office to address the missing 15-year-old Jadarius Miniweather. Now currently it's been going on for almost 2 weeks. Today, Baton Rouge Police and the mayor's office pleading with the city of Baton Rouge and anyone with information to come forward.
This is a son of Baton Rouge. It's one of ours. We need the public's help. We need anybody that has any information.
And anyone who does give information that leads to finding Jadarius can get up to $1,000. And if they come within the 48 hours with that information, $2,000. Again, anyone with information is being asked to come forward by officials.
It was the first week of June, 2026, and a 15-year-old boy in Baton Rouge was finally finding his footing. His name was Jadarius Miniweather, and by every account from the people who loved him, he was just getting started. Through a city summer work program, he had recently started a job at Istruma High School. His grandmother said he was already looking forward to his second paycheck, a hard-working kid, close to his family, the kind of teenager who called home just to check in. In fact, his family would later say he was so attached to his phone that if the battery ever died while he was out, he'd borrow someone else's, just to tell them he was okay. Remember that detail. It matters. Because on the night of June 4th, Jadarius climbed onto a small child's bike and rode off into the North Baton Rouge neighborhood that locals call Ghost Town. He was going to see a friend, a girl he had known for a long time. When he arrived, she wasn't there. She had stepped out to get food with a grown man, a man more than 3 times Jadarius's age. So the boy did something simple, something ordinary. He waited. He had no way of knowing it would be the last ordinary thing he ever did. Within hours, Jadarius Miniweather would vanish, and an entire city would be left searching for answers. If stories like this one stay with you, subscribe to Domestic True Crimes. This case is still unfolding, and we will bring you every new update as it comes.
All right, so we're here today to announce just 2 weeks after the first initial report of missing person, Jadarius Miniweather. We've made an arrest in that case. Mr. Parms, 51 years old. Detectives linked the investigation. Multiple detectives involved over the last 2 weeks. Found enough probable cause to charge Mr. Parms with the first-degree murder of Jadarius. They got an arrest warrant signed by 19th JDC late last night. After that arrest warrant, we conducted about 3 search warrants starting early this morning through different locations around Baton Rouge, recovering more evidence. And we are safe to say now that we are charging him with the murder of Jadarius.
The girl came back, and she wasn't alone. According to a warrant later obtained by investigators, she returned with the same grown man she had left with. And what happened next, detectives would say, began with words. Jadarius took issue with the way that man was treating his friend, a 15-year-old, standing his ground in front of a man more than 3 times his age. It was, by the warrant's account, a very tense disagreement over the way that man had been acting toward the 16-year-old girl. Think about that for a moment. A teenager, barely 5 feet tall, not even 100 pounds, looked at a grown man, decided something wasn't right, and said so. Witnesses in the area would later tell authorities they saw a confrontation. A larger figure, a smaller one. And then, the warrant states, that confrontation turned into something far worse. We are not going to dwell on those details. Out of respect for Jadarius, and for a family still grieving, some things belong to the investigators and the court. But here is what is known. After that night, Jadarius Miniweather was never seen alive again. The hours that followed are still being pieced together. What investigators believe is that by the early morning of June 5th, around 2 a.m., the boy who always called home had gone completely silent. No call, no message, nothing. And for a kid who borrowed strangers' phones just to check in, silence wasn't normal. Silence was a warning. At first, His family told themselves there had to be an explanation. Maybe his phone had died. Maybe he'd stayed over with a cousin. One day passed, then another, and the boy who never went quiet stayed quiet. His grandmother, Joanna Brooks, knew her grandson. She said it plainly. If he could have called, he would have. Something was wrong. Soon, missing person flyers went up across North Baton Rouge. Jadarius's face, young, smiling, taped to poles and windows in the neighborhood where he was last seen. His father, Jadarius Brooks, pleaded publicly for his son. A parent reduced to a single, breaking request. Just bring my child home. And the city listened. Volunteers poured in. The United Cajun Navy, a search group known across Louisiana, joined the effort. They moved through the hardest places to reach. Along the levees, near the river, through wooded lots and forgotten corners of the parish. Police canvassed the area, swabbing the ground at certain spots, moving from one location to the next. At one point, the search even reached a landfill. A reward was offered for any information that could bring Jadarius home, and above all of it, the weather turned. A tropical storm pushed bands of rain across southern Louisiana, soaking the search and adding urgency to every passing hour. The mayor-president of Baton Rouge, Sid Edwards, stood before the cameras and refused to treat this as just another case. He called Jadarius a son of Baton Rouge, one of ours.
Volunteer groups are relying on eyes in the community as the search for a missing 15-year-old reaches into its second week. News 2's Alexis Maroney joined a group for the latest in the search for Jadarius Miniweather.
15-year-old Jadarius Miniweather has now been missing for 10 days. He went missing on June 5th. Today, we joined search crews as they searched backwoods, alleys, and canals. Monday morning.
While searching for the missing teenager, officers crossed paths with someone, a 16-year-old girl. The same friend Jadarius had gone to see that night. Investigators spoke with her, and at some point, they examined her phone. What they found there, according to police, had little to do with where Jadarius might be, and everything to do with a grown man. His name was Maurice Parms, 51 years old. On June 10th, just days into the search, Parms was arrested. Not for the missing boy. Not yet. He was booked on charges of indecent behavior with a juvenile and computer-aided solicitation of a minor. Police said that evidence came directly from what they uncovered while investigating Jadarius's disappearance. Investigators alleged that Parms had been involved in an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Let that settle. The man the boy had confronted, over the way he treated a teenage girl, was now under arrest for crimes involving that very girl. And then came the moment that stunned the community. Parms posted bond, and he walked out. Over a single weekend, the man at the center of it all was free again. Back near the same streets where volunteers were still searching, where flyers still hung, where a family was still waiting by the phone. But here is what Maurice Parms did not know. Detectives had not closed the door on him, not even close. He was still a person of interest in the disappearance of Jadarius Miniweather, and quietly, carefully, they kept building. They pulled records. They followed the evidence. They watched. And what they were about to uncover, on his property and on camera, would turn a search for a missing boy into a murder investigation. That is where the next chapter begins. 3 search warrants, a piece of evidence hidden in plain sight on his property, and the surveillance footage that allegedly captured what truly happened after that argument. If you think you already know how this ends, you don't. Not yet. For more than 2 weeks, Baton Rouge had searched for a missing boy. On Saturday, June 20th, that search changed forever. That morning, investigators executed 3 separate search warrants at Maurice Parms' property. And what they carried away from that scene would become one of the most haunting details of the entire case. A large piece of cement, removed from the property and logged as evidence. But that was only the beginning of what the warrant would reveal. According to that document, the confrontation that began with words had ended in violence. Investigators stated that the disagreement between Jadarius and Parms escalated, and that the teenager was caught in an attack he did not survive. Police said stains were found at the location of that altercation, and that those stains later tested positive for blood. They said Parms had been seen wiping down parts of his truck with a rag, a truck that, according to investigators, carried traces of the same. Then there was the footage. Surveillance video, police said, captured a man matching Parms's build doing something almost impossible to picture, riding a child's bicycle, discarding items as he went, a mask, gloves, a shirt, and then, later, returning to retrieve them. Investigators believe that after the attack, Parms moved to conceal what had been done, that he hid the body, that he discarded evidence, came back for it, and used his vehicle to take it somewhere else. It was, in the language of the warrant, a high amount of planning, a deliberate cover-up. And so, on that Saturday, Maurice Parms was arrested for the second time in just 10 days. This time, the charge was first-degree murder. The police chief, T.J. Morse, would not name a motive. He said only that all of the evidence pointed to a violent attack by Parms that cost Jadarius his life. A 15-year-old. Gone. A suspect in custody. A city holding its breath. And yet, even with an arrest, even with the evidence, one thing was still missing. The most important thing of all. They had a suspect. They had a warrant. They had evidence. But they did not have Jadarius. As of the telling of this story, his body had not been found. The investigation remained active, and the same volunteers who had once searched for a missing boy were now searching for something far heavier to carry, a way to finally bring him home. The United Cajun Navy returned to the field. Police kept asking the public for help. Anyone, any tip, anything that might lead them to Jadarius. The mayor-president did not soften his words. He said that if you hurt one of their children in Baton Rouge, and Jadarius was one of their children, they would come for you. Not if, when. And here is what must be said clearly. Maurice Parms has been charged. He has not been convicted. Under the law, he is presumed innocent unless and until a court proves otherwise. That is how justice is meant to work. But step back from the charges and the documents and the legal language. And remember who this began with. A 15-year-old boy, a summer job, and a second paycheck he never collected. A kid who always called home. A boy who, by the warrant's own account, saw something wrong and refused to stay quiet. He spoke up, and it may have cost him everything. This case is far from over. A search still continues. A court case lies ahead, and there are questions this city is still demanding answers to. Subscribe to Domestic True Crimes, and stay with us, because when the next chapter of Jadarius Miniweather's story breaks, you will hear it here first.